This is the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, as always, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day and hope everybody out there is having a great day on this fine Tuesday. Today we're talking about these individuals that were popping up on the screen here: Brandon Aiyuk, Talanoa Hufanga, Brandon Staley, and Nick Sorensen. We're talking about them because Kyle Shanahan did a news conference from the NFL owners' meetings in Orlando and provided some updates and thoughts on Aiyuk, Hufanga, Staley, and Sorensen. A lot of interesting stuff that we're going to pass along. So sit back, relax. Let's talk some Niners. Before we do that, help out the show. We're doing a sub battle this week with another power channel here under the Chat Sports umbrella, the Las Vegas Raiders Report. The good news is we're beating them right now with subscribers picked up this week. And it's early in the week, but we're starting strong. We have to finish strong as well. Let's continue to dominate that dysfunctional organization, that wild and out-of-pocket fan base, and let's crush the Raiders Report. Hit that sub button if you want daily shows on San Francisco. Always faithful to the Bay, never faithful to the Bay. Kyle Shanahan on Brandon Aiyuk. All right. Some juicy stuff this week from General Manager John Lynch as well as Kyle Shanahan. And what continues to be the consistent theme is that the Niners are letting it be known they want Aiyuk around. They want him as part of this organization. They know, like we all know, the importance of pairing him up with Brock Purdy, and Shanahan hoping a deal gets done. Wants him to be paired up with Purdy. Ran into him, actually, in Cabo and made a good joke about that, saying Aiyuk probably didn't want to see me. But Kyle Shanahan always goes to Cabo in the offseason. A lot of Niner players go to Cabo in the offseason. You have to imagine you're going to run into him at some point. Anyway, here's what Shanahan had to say about his number one wide receiver. You just got to be patient. You've got to let it play out, not get involved in it. And usually when you're in a situation like we are, where you got a real good player who wants to be here, and we want the player to be here extremely bad too, what I found with it is it doesn't always happen right away, but it's a matter of time before it works out. Couple of takeaways from what Shanahan said there. He said that Aiyuk wants to be with the Niners, and we want Aiyuk on the Niners. So the interest here is clearly mutual. And I get that Aiyuk wants a bag and probably wants wide receiver one targets. The Niners can give him a bag, realistically, and they can do a better job of having him more involved in the pass game, even more than he was this past year when he really emerged as a top 10 wide receiver because he was a second-team All-Pro. Aiyuk also, I thought the interview after the Super Bowl loss in which he was crying at his locker, very emotional, in saying, all I want to do is win championships, that goes to show you his emotional tie to this organization, the future outlook of this organization fitting and aligning with what he wants as a player. And the Niners, again, can fulfill the financial needs and the playing needs. As for when an Aiyuk extension could get done, big conversation and a big question from the fan base right now. The Niners have a history of doing business a certain way at a certain point of the calendar year, and that's later in the summer. And the Niners have handed out these contract extensions to some of their players right around the same time frame. They made George Kittle the highest paid tight end in the history of football on August 13th of 2020. They made Fred Warner the highest paid off-ball linebacker July 21st of 2021. Deebo Samuel got top 10 wide receiver money on July 31st, 2022, and Nick Bosa's holdout lasted a while, and he signed that deal right before the season, which made him the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of football on September 6th of 2023. So an Aiyuk contract extension, there's pressure to get it done, but the Niners have shown they might not do business with one of their homegrown superstars until later this summer. So patience, as Kyle Shanahan noted, going to be important here. As for keeping Purdy and Aiyuk together, Shanahan's the head coach of this ball club, and he knows ball, especially on the offensive end, because that's his specialty. And he knows that keeping Purdy and Aiyuk together is of the utmost importance for a young quarterback here. Here's what he had to say about that 1-2 punch. It's huge. I mean, it's hard to be a successful quarterback if you don't have real good wide receivers. And so it starts there with Brandon. And I think it's a real big thing for Brock and his future, making sure we've got a good group for him going forward. I did see some people on X saying, well, if Kyle Shanahan and the Niners are going to call Brock Purdy the quote-unquote real deal, why does he need so many weapons? Patrick Mahomes doesn't. Well, I think it's become clear that Brock Purdy is not Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is an alien in this league. Also, the Chiefs did not have a lot of wide receiver talent this past year. You are right. But really, for the first time under Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, that Chiefs offense was cheeks in 2023. It took them all year to really get it together, and they finally somewhat did during that playoff run. And with what Purdy was able to do this past year, a lot of it was made possible thanks to Aiyuk. And that's why when you have chemistry that Purdy and Aiyuk had this past year, you don't want that connection to go away just because of financials. Purdy was third in touchdowns among all quarterbacks with 31. He was number 1 in yards per attempt, number 1 in deep ball completion rate, number 4 in pressure completion rate, number 2 in red zone completion percentage. True passer rating was number 1. QBR number 1, EPA number 1, receiver target separation, 14th in the NFL. Guess where Patrick Mahomes was? Number 1. Deep ball catchable rate, 61.7%, number 1, which goes to show you Purdy doesn't have a noodle arm. He's not just a check down artist. He threw that deep ball a lot, by the way, to Brandon Aiyuk, whose yards per catch, number 2. Yards per target, number 2. Pro Football Focus wide receiver grade, number 2. EPA 2, and despite being in a run-heavy offense, receiving yards, number 7. So if you want the Niners to pay Aiyuk, I do. Special player in this league. If you're with me, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If not, comment why. We talked about Brandon Aiyuk. Still to come, conversation about Talanoa Hufanga, Brandon Staley, as well as new defensive coordinator Nick Sorensen, game planning and play calling. What are the roles for Staley and Sorensen? Stay tuned to find out. First, today's 49ers Report is sponsored by Game Time, the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you even check out. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps on your phone. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts if you're running a little bit late or you're in the area and you make that impromptu move to go to a ball game. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals, sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, but also concerts, comedy shows, theater, and more. I've been able to see Bill Burr through Game Time, Tom Segura through Game Time. I really want to see Shane Gillis next. With zone deals, you pick the section, and Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings. And the Game Time app guarantees that you'll always get the best price. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. How about that? So download the Game Time app. Use the code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. That's the code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Let's segue here to Talanoa Hufanga. I did a show on him on Friday, and the comment section gets out of hand sometimes. Clickbait! Chase, you want Talanoa Hufanga traded. You don't want him as part of this team and is in All-Pro. Never said that at all. Listen to what I say. Again, listen to what I say. Don't go just commenting, speculating that I've said this or that without listening to me speak. All right? So we'll get to that here in a moment. But Kyle Shanahan saying today, Talanoa Hufanga will return sometime in training camp. Optimistic he can get to 100% and back to his normal self. The Niners here would still like to add a safety, and they told Julian Blackmon on that visit last week he's not guaranteed a starting spot. And the safety position is an interesting conversation to have. And part of the reason why I floated, hold on here, are the Niners looking to move on from Talanoa Hufanga? He's in a contract year. He might ask for big-time dollars. The Niners might not be able to pay him a lot of money. He's coming off a torn ACL. The Niners have been bringing in and have shown interest in other starting caliber safeties. They're not looking at other starting caliber safeties if they're not somewhat unsure of Hufanga with how he's going to respond to the ACL, or they might not know if they're going to be able to afford Talanoa Hufanga because he was a first-team All-Pro in his second year in the National Football League. Let me say, Hufanga is a special player. I love Talanoa Hufanga with how he plays the game. Hustle, determination, swagger, confidence, attitude, all-out pursuit, plays with his hair on fire, physical, really good instincts, which has led to him having 7 interceptions the last 2 years. Hufanga is a really good football player. But do the Niners want to pay him? Can they afford him? And is he a scheme fit because Jair Brown, who you drafted in the 3rd round, who is younger, not coming off an injury, plays a similar style to Hufanga. So you might need that deep safety who's better in coverage than Hufanga. Now you look at his Pro Football Focus numbers each of the last 2 years. 2022 up first when he was an All-Pro. Overall grade 68.8. Pass rush grade 71.4. Run defense grade 64.5. Coverage grade 67.8 this past year. Obviously, he missed some time because of that ACL. 70.5 grade. Run defense grade is 77.1. Pass rush grade 76.3. Coverage grade 66.3. Where Hufanga, who excels, he's really good against the run. He could be that extra man on blitzes. Makes plays around the line of scrimmage. Instincts and playmaking are elite. That's what's led to him having a lot of interceptions, being in the right place at the right time. First guy on the field for practice and before games. It's awesome. He also plays fast and with his hair on fire. Where Hufanga struggles, though, and the Niners do hide him with their defensive personnel and with their play calling and with their scheme because he gets over-aggressive. He can struggle against the pass. He is not a traditional ball-hawking deep safety who can play center field like an Ed Reed or a Justin Simmons. That's what I mean by ball-hawking, not necessarily intercepting passes off. He gets aggressive. He bites, over-pursues in the pass game. He can be a liability in coverage at times. And that's why the Niners have looked at other safeties who are more so specialists against the pass. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about with Hufanga. Niners seem confident, though. He can come back off that torn ACL. We'll see if he's a Niner beyond 2024. It's going to be tough. Brock Purdy contract extension also coming. If you think Hufanga is the long-term option at the safety spot for San Francisco, simply type Huff down in the comments section here. Let's round out the show with talking some defense. Kyle Shanahan saying today Nick Sorensen is going to call the plays. He said that Brandon Staley, former Rams defensive coordinator, former Chargers coach, will help with game planning. So he's going to have a voice and his fingerprints are going to be a part of the game planning. I kind of like that because Staley is a bright and smart defensive mind. This is also of note here. Shanahan said that Staley has played a role in free agency and having input there. He did coach Leonard Floyd with the Los Angeles Rams. That, up to this point, has been the biggest splash move for the Niners so far in free agency. Make sure you give me a follow on X. You give me a follow on Instagram. It's the same handle on both platforms, at Chase_Senior. Thanks to everybody for the support. Let's continue to grow, and we're going to continue to hum out some great content.